Please read the chamber.
Upon activation of the emergency alarm signal, all persons should immediately exit the building. Please use the exits to the left or right front of the council chamber or the east or west stairwell outside the rear doors of the chamber. Do not use elevators or escalators. After exiting the building, proceed down 9th Street and into the assembly area located in the former Public Safety Building parking lot. Able persons should assist visually and hearing impaired visitors with exiting the building. Public speaker guidelines. Individuals wishing to speak during public hearings in the public comment period are generally allowed 3 minutes to speak. Persons appearing before the committee are not allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, use language of a personal nature which insults or demeans any person, including comments directed at public officials or staff members that are not related to their official duties, or address or question staff members directly. All questions are to be directed to the committee chair. Failure to adhere to the guidelines may result in speakers forfeiting any remaining time, and further disciplinary action is necessary, which could include barring from attendance at future meetings of the committee for a period of 6 months. And Madam Chair, all members of the committee are in attendance today with the exception of Ms. Jones, and you do have a quorum.
All right. And Madam Clerk, do you have anyone here to speak for public comment?
Public comment is now open. Is there anyone present who wishes to address the committee regarding items not on today's agenda? Madam Chair, seeing none and no one signed up to speak virtually before the 10 a.m. deadline, the public comment period is now closed, and back to the committee.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, first on the agenda, we have the wonderful DCAO Amy Popovich with us and her team. Welcome, welcome. We're going to get an update. As you recall, our committee took our committee on the road and out in the community, and we held a community conversation mid-April. And a series of action items came out of that meeting. And we had stakeholders from, GRTC leadership, RPS, our inclement weather shelter leaders, as well as a number of faith partners and stakeholders who do more of the boots on the ground case management. It was a wonderful meeting of the minds and bringing a lot of folks together who work on our homeless services issues and with individuals experiencing homelessness. So as a follow-up to that, we had some action items, and Ms. Popovich is here to give us the readout on those action items. So thank you so much for being here with us, and come on up.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Lynch and Councilman Breton. Glad to be here today. Before we get into those 4 goals, I just wanted to also update you on how we've established the Office of Opioid and Substance Use Response. We have our next coordinator who will start, Anna Jones, on Monday. Additionally, stay tuned for our naloxone vending machines. They're outdoor and they are actively being installed today. So more to come on that. All right, we have our 4 goals. I'll talk through our first one of how we increase beds during inclement weather and extreme weather. The 3 additional goals, Tiffany Ford, Director of the Neighborhood and Community Services team, will talk about the other 3. So our first goal here was to have a plan, a budget and location for additional bed capacity for singles and families. As you all know, Salvation Army is our core provider for inclement weather shelters throughout this past year, and they're doing so this summer. They provide 106 beds. However, what we learned last year during the winter is we had some extreme weather nights, 28 of them that had extreme cold and increased precipitation in snow, and we needed more capacity for that. So we've partnered with Caritas. We have Executive Director Karen O'Brien here with us in the audience today, who came together with a proposal, $618,000 for 3 full-time staff and funding to be able to support folks in that space for 60 beds, 60 individual beds for up to 30 nights throughout the year. So that increases the capacity from 106 beds to an additional 60 once the Salvation Army has reached their capacity. This is a 2-pronged approach. Not only does it assist with the extreme weather, but also it really adds support for the year-round work that they do as well. So actually the number is 50. That will triple Caritas's goal for folks moving through the continuum. So not only does this help support a quality service where our folks who are unhoused can go and experience for folks being able to move through the continuum towards more permanent housing. Next, we'll bring up Tiffany to talk about the next couple goals.
Hello. Good afternoon, Chair Lynch and Councilman Breton. Nice to see you. So one of the goals we talked about was to create a roster for volunteers and stakeholders. And while the city does leverage many stakeholders, including MRC, that's the Medical Reserve Corps, the American Red Cross, and of course, CERT. We will continue to build upon those relationships. They did prove very valuable during the time we stood up the IWS, and we will use volunteers, singular, in places where they are appropriate. So, for CRTC as well as other things that are less public facing, or I should say to our population facing, but we continue to build out those relationships with those partners. Any questions before I move on to the second goal?
I think what folks, when we were in that meeting, there were a variety of different stakeholders that work with the population, right? But may not always, and this is something we have identified as a deficit and an opportunity for the city, is to have kind of a list of all the folks that work directly with our individuals who are experiencing homelessness. And that may look like a church who has a homeless ministry, or a nonprofit agency that serves that population, like ACTS, for example, or an LLC that works directly with that population.
Yeah, and
Okay.
or we talk more about partnerships.
Okay.
All right. And another goal that was asked was to clearly identify roles, titles, and responsibilities for city officials and departments working in the homeless services space. And so I believe org chart was provided to you guys for OHS. As you know, OHS, Office of Homeless Services, was recently developed last fiscal year. We thankfully just are able to extend an offer to a homeless services manager, which she will start July 28th. So exciting. And we're also have organized a team to work in buckets of outreach navigation and and outreach navigation and case management. All right. And so of those roles out, I can go over them if you would like. What would be appropriate?
I think what folks were looking to see is if we can, the ask was to take that chart and put it on our.
It has been.
You put it already on there. Oh, great. Okay.
Mhm.
And then second.
As well as I just want to say, as well as an explanation of roles so people understand.
That's great.
Exactly what they do.
Super great. And then taking that a step further, when we, and we'll talk about this in a second, when we reconvene or potentially reconvene with that same group in August, is expanding upon that. Like step 2 is to get, because folks were like, well, what does the HOPE team do? And what does the CFIT office do? Like the other kind of the DSS folks. I mean, like the other kind of roles that are embedded in other departments, and just kind of putting that.
And I will say, building upon that conversation, we have again reaching out to those folks to make sure that across the city, we understand how we can work together. So we are going to convene a meeting with our outreach resources around the city. And once we start having those conversations, I think that could be better maybe for our September meeting to give you an update on that as well. Additionally, going back to the partnerships, We do have folks that are currently partnering with us in the CRTC, or Community Resource and Training Center. We work with we have these folks rotate and come in once a week, or at some cadence, regular cadence. So the Department of Aging and Disability, Office of Community Wealth Building, Center for Working Families, VDH, they come in and help people get their vital statistics records, Richmond Public School through the CFIT program, the Daily Planet Health Clinic, Department of Veteran Services, and many others. And so we're leveraging those partnerships, and we'll continue as we, kind of go into our next fiscal year to build upon those partnerships. And it has been successful. I mean, in one instance is specifically with DMV, another partnership, we were able to give a whole boatload of folks, I want to say over 100, their license, or get them started to get their licenses, which is important, as you know, when you're trying to get housing.
Actually, do have a bit of a question about, this goal is to better leverage these partnerships. And that's a very, general statement. So I see that, like, you deliver it a very comprehensive list. Okay, we compiled all these partners, or describing what they do. Do you do you think that we're going to, be able to, quantify or revisit, these partnerships are stronger now, they are better leveraged? What's the next type of checkpoint or opportunity for us to revisit that and say, yes, the partnerships are better now because, we're seeing this, we're seeing that? What sort of stuff can we look for, or when?
I mean, we can always do, and I know this is tried and true, but surveys with how they are feeling. I mean, this is not a one-way partnership. The reason that they're partnering with us is also because they want to provide service. So we want to make sure that as they're in there, they're not just sitting there. They're actually seeing people. Our outreach team is bringing unhoused people, or people who need help. It's really not just unhoused, although that is the focus of that office, but people who are on the brink of housing instability. If they need help, we want to make sure that folks are coming in through those doors, and that those folks, you feel like that space is utilized, not that they're just sitting there. And so I think a part of that is, number one, getting their feedback about how we can better provide a space for them, provide those parties. I think also, setting goals. I talked about the number of licenses that we were able to do in a visit, but how do we now measure those? We had a really good day that day, but how do we make sure that we are, having that consistently and meeting the needs of the folks? So I think as we get further into the solidified partnerships, we can start building out metrics specifically with things that we can actually quantify. But we'll be happy to revisit that. Anything? Thank you.
Actually, can I ask about the Caritas arrangement? So I would like to hear more about that. That's sort of the complementariness of this relationship and how it works with the rest of Caritas's work that they do. And I just apologize that I may just need to learn more about how it all works. So what you mentioned, that this relationship also improves their existing things. Can you speak more to that synergy?
I'd be happy to. If you have more specific Caritas questions, happy to invite Karen up here too. But so there's the two-prong approach. One is the I want to use the right language because shelters are confusing. Extreme weather beds, surge beds. But the second is something called year-round beds. And the way that you enter into the year-round system, that means you have access to a shelter bed until you can have more permanent housing, happens through the greater Richmond continuum of care. So there's one phone number that an individual can call who is within 3 days of being unhoused, and then they get put on a wait list. There's some questions that get asked. I have actually just yesterday was setting up my orientation to be on the GRCOC board so that I can understand more myself. So that's how you enter in a year-round bed model. We have the city supports year-round beds for families with Home Again, and then also through individuals through the Salvation Army, and then through separate funding. But Caritas is also one of those providers shelters that folks can enter in those year-round beds. I have their total numbers served, but it was a couple hundred people through those beds last year at Caritas, and we can get that specific number to you. 24 of those individuals went on to more permanent housing at Caritas specifically. This proposal is suggesting an additional 50 this year. We'll move not just 50 people in their year-round beds, but 50 people moving through the continuum of care to their next more permanent housing. That makes sense.
Oh, so we're talking about having capacity for 60 more during extreme weather and also 50
Yes.
more year round?
Yes. Well, so not year-round beds. It's a twofold, 60 more beds, up to 30 nights this year when it gets really cold or snows a lot. And the capacity for more essentially social support for the people already in Caritas's year-round bed, which is a different program that will walk them through getting more permanent housing. Because this funding, the $618,000, is sort of a three buckets of funding. It funds 3 full-time people. One is a shelter supervisor who can really oversee the support of the shelter, but also the hiring of folks, the equipping and training of the people who are at Caritas to do the work well, a full-time case manager, and a full-time housing navigator. So because of those increased positions and the people being able to focus and spend time and walk folks through the things they're experiencing, they suspect that they'll be able to triple the number of folks, not just in their beds, but the number of folks who really can walk through more permanent housing.
Okay, so the additional staff that's part of this package,
Exactly.
partly they're going to support the 60 nights of extreme weather nights, and they also will be supporting our year-round services, and you've estimated that maybe able to triple our numbers, 50 more people. Like, these are sorts of numbers that you think that will be able to also benefit from that same staff.
Yes, correct. Only just quick tweak is 30 nights, 60 beds. But yes, it was important as we thought about how to really make sure that we're delivering more quality services and a place to be for folks in an emergency. We didn't want to only support extreme weather beds. We also wanted to support the broader work and wraparound work and support that's happening for the unhoused in our community. And so we're bringing this proposal, and again, we'll come up in an ordinance in just a few minutes also, to really support in a more holistic way and not just provide a one point in time service, but really more comprehensively support those folks. Yep. You okay?
And then I'll reserve we can reserve other questions on the Caritas we're about to hear the paper. So, all right, Madam Clerk, with that, papers for consideration.
The paper for consideration is item 1, ordinance 2025-163, to amend ordinance number 2025-057, adopted May 12, 2025, and made appropriations by transferring $200,000 from Heart of Richmond and transferring $109,000 from the Department of Neighborhood and Community Services, creating a new line item called Caritas, and appropriating transfer funds in the amount of $309,000 for the purpose of providing surge overflow shelter operations during inclement winter weather season. That paper is before the committee.
Madam Clerk, do we have anyone here to speak for or against the paper? Oh, I'm sorry, members of the administration. It's your paper. Go ahead. Present.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Lynch and Councilman Breton. Just wanted to add for this ordinance where the funding is coming from, specifically as it's a reappropriation paper. So part of our strategy was to ensure the least impact on the new fiscal year. So we've actually been able to encumber funds from 2 places in last fiscal year. One was a line item called Heart of Richmond, which was only a part of the budget for 2 years, fiscal year 24 and in 25. It is not in the budget for fiscal year 26. So in 25, instead of giving several organizations small amounts of money that would have been essentially a gift, there was no application process. We wanted to combine that amount of money towards a project and a partnership that was of high impact and a high priority. So all of those Heart of Richmond funds were then condensed to use towards Caritas, along with another $100,000 that was in unexpected funds, unspent funds, because of the homeless services vacancy position. So that's where all the funding came, and just wanted to talk that with you all. Thanks.
Madam Clerk, we'll now take public comment. Are there any members here to speak for or against the paper? We'll hear opposition first.
Madam Chair, seeing none and no one signed up to speak virtually, that public hearing is now closed and back to the committee.
Any members? Any questions?
Well, I already asked my questions, and so I'm very glad to see the solution that you found to improve our services and year round as part of the solution. I think it's great. So I applaud that, and also finding money in 25 is also great.
Yep. I only have one question, which I didn't catch before, and that is let's just say absolute emergency disaster happens, because this is paying for 30 nights, right? If there's an emergency disaster situation, do we have the flexibility to go beyond that? Just in case.
Yes. We do. We have spoken in depth with Caritas, really thankful for their partnership. And we'll actually track specifically the number of nights and the budget, because I mentioned the 3 buckets. Of course, you won't prorate a salary, but there actually is about 125,000 of that budget I mentioned that goes towards food and keeping the lights on and hiring security, et cetera, for those actual nights. So if, for example, we use 15 out of the 30 nights, we'll have a conversation next March about where the budget is and what we might want to do with that amount of funds. If we need 32 nights, that would be an additional cost. So there's a prorated cost per night, but we would be able to leverage those additional nights should we need them.
Okay. Well, it's not even August yet, and we have got a solution in place. So that is a far, far cry from where we have been in years past, where I believe that the last 3 previous years, those papers were brought before us, some as late as in October. So we have really made some good progress. And, Karen, hats off to you and your team. Caritas, great organization. Still a lot of work left to do on the other pieces. Our work is not done on some of the other, challenges and opportunities in our system that people are experiencing. But, we are, we're cooking with gas here, because we've come a long way in this committee from where we were last year, the year before, and, several years prior. So thank you for that and making progress with this together. And thank you for the community members. We have a pretty light audience today, but usually this hall is packed with advocates and stakeholders, and certainly their voices and their work that have been at the forefront of this, tip of spear of this, is what has helped get us to this point. So even though they're not with us today, I appreciate many who are not in the room who help raise and elevate this issue. With that, motion to approve.
Can I get a second, please?
I second.
Madam Clerk, call the roll.
The committee is voting on the motion to forward item 1, ordinance 2025-163, to cancel with the recommendation to approve. Vice Chair Breton,
Aye.
Chair Lynch.
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
All right. With that, we will move to our board vacancy report. Madam Clerk, there you are.
Good afternoon, Chair Lynch, Vice Chair Breton, Pamela Nichols, Council Management Analyst. So the vacancy report before you for consideration captures vacancies, current and projected vacancies through November of this year. And so to get started, we will start with the Advisory Board of Recreation and Parks. There is 1 vacancy for a city resident at large, and we received applications from Amanda Murphy, 1st District resident, and Vic Murphy, also a 1st District resident. I also would like to note that Mr. Murphy also applied and does qualify for the Lewis Ginter Board.
Yeah, we'll do these in a block. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk. Go ahead and proceed.
Okay, wonderful. And then for the Capital Area Alcohol Safety Action Program, ASAP Policy Advisory Board, there are 3 current vacancies, and we have an application from Beverly Hawkins, 8th District resident. And for the Future Workforce Commission, there's currently 1 vacancy for an individual that fits the criteria, either representative of school district, school board. It's just a variety of categories. So we received an application from Victor Gochez, which is affiliated with the Richmond Public Schools and a 4th District resident. And then Monet Pierre Lewis, which is a member of Express Employment Professional. So again, there's one vacancy, 2 applications. And also noted on the report, the mayor did make an appointment of Thad Williamson to the future Workforce Commission, which this will complete all of the vacancies that the current mayoral vacancies. So they have been all filled.
Madam Clerk, did the administration or members of the Workforce Commission make any advisement on which of these candidates they prefer?
No, we have not received any responses from them. And then moving on to the second page. Of course, you will see that for, like I noted earlier, Lewis Ginter Botanical Garden, we have one vacancy for a member who is within good standings with Lewis Ginter, and Vic Murphy, 1st District resident, submitted application. And then moving on to Richmond Behavioral Health Authority, we have 2 vacancies for an individual that resides or has a principal place of employment in the city. And we received 2 applications, one from Stephanie Fina and Veranda Cobbs. And we did receive support from RBHA for both of those applicants. And then for the Richmond Public Library Board, there is 1 vacancy for a qualified voter. We have 3 applications. 1, Emily Bertot, Thomas Briggs, M. Kirk Pickerell, I do apologize. And I do want to note that the current composition of that board consists of residents from the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, and 8th districts. And then lastly, for the Social Services Advisory Board, we have 2 vacancies for a city resident, and we received applications from Rosalind Hall, 4th District resident, and W. Camden Whitehead, 5th District resident. And those are all of the applications.
All right, Madam Clerk, we're going to go through these in block. I motion for the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, Vic Murphy. I always struggle with that name. CAPA, Miss Beverly Hawkins, Future Workforce Commission, Victoria Gochez, and Thad Williamson, of course. Human Rights Commission, Ismael Romero, Mr. Romero. For RBHA, motion for Veranda Cobbs, for Richmond Public Library Board, Mr. Kirk Pickerel, and for the DSS Advisory Board, Mr. Camden Whitehead. And for now, we would like to table the Lewis Ginter Botanical Gardens appointment.
I'm sorry, what about Lewis Ginter?
We would like to table
Okay.
that vote.
Wonderful. Okay, so now for RBHA, are we doing Stephanie Fina and Veranda Cobb? There are
No,
2
there's-
vacancies.
Oh, I apologize. Yes, we're doing, I guess.
Okay, all right.
I apologize for that.
And for social services,
Mr.
both? There are 2 vacancies?
Yep. Totally missed the quiz on that, Madam Clerk. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right, and we're continuing consideration for Lewis Ginter to
Yes,
the
ma'am.
next quarter?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful.
A second for that motion.
Madam Clerk, call the roll.
The committee is voting on the board's recommendations as stated. Vice Chair Breton,
Aye.
Chair Lynch.
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, we'll now do the approval of the minutes.
The minutes to be approved are for June 12, 2025, for the Education and Human Services Standing Committee meeting held at 2 p.m. If there are no amendments or corrections, then the minutes will stand approved as presented. Those minutes have been approved. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And before we get into our staff report, just wanted to take a moment and bring up two residual items that we have discussed at the last two committee meetings. The one is our education collective, and that is the that is the concept of the school board, the city administration, and city council joining each other in a joint meeting, hopefully sometime in August before school gets underway. And that is to talk about the very, very important endeavor of school funding, city funding, how we better support our very most important residents, and that is the children of the city of Richmond. So we, have talked about that as a committee. I'll let Will Perkins, our staff member for this committee, give us an update on where we are with that. But just wanted to let you all know that is still very top of mind for us, and we're moving forward with that meeting. And then secondly, wanted to put it out there to you, Councilmember Breton, and to our other council colleague to reconvene the community meeting that we held in mid-April during our August recess. So taking that community conversation and having a follow-up, because many of our stakeholders that were so key were not able to join us today in person, because the summertime is a little more challenging for folks, as you can see by our chambers being a little bit more light than usual. And so if you're amenable, we would proceed on with scheduling that meeting in August.
Yes, I am amenable.
So we will get that back on the books, and we'll probably do a follow-up to all of the items that we discussed in April, and get the report, get the good news, be able to share the good news, and be able to identify some of the other areas that we need to work on for the year to come. All right, with that, our staff report from Mr. Perkins. Let her rip.
Thank you, Chair Lynch. Will Perkins, Legislative Manager. I did not capture any action items from today's meeting, but did want to share that at least at the moment, there's not a plan for this committee to meet in August. I think we'd want to confirm that together now, as well as then the next scheduled meeting for this committee would be on Thursday, September 11th. And two presentations currently on the agenda are for DSS to talk about metrics for customer service, and for the Office of Children and Families and DNCS to discuss the Positive Youth Development Fund. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And then I can't believe I almost forgot this, but the other very important topic that we've been covering for almost a year now, and that is the SNAP theft that we're experiencing in the community. And for those who have not been following along, that is a very, very real and serious challenge that a lot of our families who have been the victims of SNAP theft are experiencing. When we first were uncovering this issue, we saw a 63% increase in the volume of calls that were coming in every day to DSS, representative of families who were getting their SNAP money stolen from their accounts, oftentimes within the first minutes of the deposit. And so our food ministries and food banks are really, really struggling right now. Absolutely struggling right now. Anybody that's in our world of human services knows what kind of challenges our nonprofit partners and faith organizations are facing as they try to meet the need out there in the community. And so we had discussed this and brought this up during Monday's meeting, but our Councilmember Jordan did as a part of the budget work that they were doing. But we intend to not only cover that topic, but then move forward with our original proposal to allocate some money. Really, I mean, that's what matters to people is, we can sit up here and talk all day, but if we're not going to really invest in helping people get from food insecurity to security, then it just doesn't matter. So we've got $50,000 in the unassigned funds for the non-department, if you remember when we were going through the budget process. So I would like to bring that proposal to full committee and allocate those funds to our family crisis fund and have a special pot of money so that when folks go to DSS, they don't go, here's a list of food banks. They can go, here's a gift card. Go feed you and your family. So Councilman Breton, what do you think of that proposal?
So it sounds like a great idea. I don't know how it compares to the scale of the problem, but it's given that the money is there and that we know it's there and that it's pretty compatible with the goal of that funding as well. It seems like an excellent place for it. In terms of the process, I'm not sure if we're actually suggesting that that we can actually do that today or if we need to bring it back a month later. But the spirit makes a lot of sense. It's a very real need. The money is there and it's very compatible with the initial intent of that budget line item. So for all those reasons, it seems like a great idea.
I'm looking at council for guidance on that. Would we need to put in a resolution? How would that work? So if we wanted to, we have unallocated funds, $50,000 from that came into effect July 1st of this year, new fiscal year. If we wanted to assign some or all of those funds into an existing line item, so it would go to the Family Crisis Fund, to be designated for SNAP theft replacement, card replacement, how would we legally go about doing that? I believe it has to be an ordinance because and we as council can do that. We as council, or does it have to come through the administration? I think it has. We'll figure that out. We'll figure those pieces out. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's an action item. We want to try to move that as quickly as possible because people are really struggling out in the community. So that would be really helpful. All right. Any other business to bring before the committee? Great. Seeing none, this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you guys so much. Wonderful to be with you today.